Children who regularly witnessed their parents argue about money were 3 times more likely to end up in serious debt by age 40, not twice as likely, 3 times. And the researchers who found this were so unsettled by the implications that the studies sat largely unread in academic journals for years. Those children grew up. They are your neighbors. They might be you. In the late 1980s, a group of developmental psychologists launched what would become one of the longest-running studies of its kind. They identified over 1,200 families across different income levels, different cities, different structures. Single parents, 2-parent households, wealthy suburbs, working-class apartments. The one variable they were tracking was simple. How often did the children observe open conflict between caregivers about financial matters? The researchers weren't studying poverty. That's the part most people miss entirely. Plenty of these families were middle class, even upper middle class. The fights happened over a new car, a vacation that felt irresponsible, credit card statements, who spent what at the grocery store. The income level of the household turned out to matter far less than what the children were allowed to witness inside it. By the time those children were in their 20s, the patterns were already visible. The research team found that children who had witnessed frequent money arguments, defined as more than twice a month over a sustained period, showed measurably different financial behaviors when they first became independent. They were more likely to avoid opening bank statements, more likely to make impulsive purchases following a period of stress, more likely to lend money they didn't have to friends or partners. But why? The mechanism, when researchers finally described it clearly, is almost achingly logical. When a child watches 2 trusted adults treat money as a source of threat, danger, and shame, the child's nervous system files that association away permanently. Money doesn't become a neutral tool. It becomes something the body physically responds to, something to be avoided or grabbed at desperately or hidden. The emotional charge their parents put on financial conversations becomes the emotional charge the child carries into every financial decision they will ever make. There is a specific phrase that kept appearing in the qualitative interviews conducted at the 15-year mark. Researchers sat down with these now adult participants and asked them to describe how they felt when they had to deal with money. And over again, across completely different people, from different backgrounds, they used the same word: dread. Not stress, not frustration. Dread. The low, anticipatory kind that lives in the stomach before anything has even gone wrong. Psychologists have a term for this now. Financial anxiety disorder isn't yet in the main diagnostic manuals, but it appears in clinical literature with increasing frequency. It describes a pattern where the emotional response to money is so dysregulated that rational financial behavior becomes genuinely difficult. Not because the person lacks knowledge or intelligence, but because their nervous system hijacks the decision before the reasoning brain gets a chance to weigh in. You can know exactly what the right move is and still be physically unable to make it. The researchers also found something that complicated the narrative in an important way. It wasn't just children from low-income households who struggled. In fact, children from wealthier households where money arguments were frequent sometimes showed worse outcomes because the cognitive dissonance was sharper. They had grown up with material abundance and simultaneous emotional scarcity around money. They learned that having money didn't make it safe. That lesson turned out to be particularly hard to unlearn. By the 30-year mark, the numbers hardened into something undeniable. Participants who had witnessed high-frequency parental money conflict carried an average of 40% more consumer debt than their peers with similar incomes and similar educational backgrounds. They had lower retirement savings. They were more likely to have experienced at least one financial crisis, a bankruptcy, a foreclosure, a period of complete financial collapse, even controlling for every external factor the researchers could think to measure. The inheritance nobody talks about. That's how one of the lead researchers described it in a rare public lecture. We talk constantly about financial literacy. We build apps and school curricula and YouTube channels dedicated to teaching people about compound interest and budgeting. And those things matter. But we are handing people a map while ignoring the fact that, for some of them, the road itself causes panic attacks. Financial education without emotional repair is like teaching someone to swim while they are drowning. There was a subset of participants, about 18% of those who had been exposed to high conflict, who defied the pattern entirely. They had witnessed the same arguments, carried the same early memories, and yet arrived at midlife with stable finances, healthy savings, and what researchers described as a functional relationship with money. What was different about them? The research team wanted to know badly enough that they conducted an additional round of in-depth interviews specifically with this group. What emerged from those interviews was striking. Almost without exception, these resilient participants had experienced at least one relationship in their childhood or early adolescence: a teacher, a grandparent, an older sibling, a coach, who had demonstrated a calm, matter-of-fact relationship with money in front of them. Not lectures, not financial education, just visible modeling. Someone who looked at a bill and handled it without theater. Someone who talked about saving or spending without the conversation becoming emotionally charged. One woman in her early 40s described her grandmother counting out grocery money every Friday afternoon. Not as a crisis, not with sighing or arguments, just quietly, practically, counting it out and putting it in an envelope. She said she watched that, and something in her understood that money could just be managed. Not feared, not worshipped, managed. She credits that image, that small, unheroic image, with having saved her financial life. The implication for parents is the part of this research that feels most urgent. Not the dramatic fights, not the screaming matches over maxed-out cards, even low-grade, chronic tension, the tight voice when the topic comes up, the subject changing, the whispered arguments that children are clearly not supposed to hear but absolutely do. All of it registers. Children are extraordinarily sensitive instruments. They are always measuring the emotional temperature of the adults around them, and money is one of the temperatures they measure most carefully. What the research ultimately points toward is not guilt. The researchers were careful about this. Most of the parents in this study were not negligent or reckless people. They were under real financial pressure, often with very little support, doing their best. The point is not to assign blame to a previous generation. The point is that the transmission is real, it is measurable, it is lasting, and it can be interrupted. That is the hopeful sentence buried at the end of papers most people never read. There are now therapists who specialize specifically in what's being called financial trauma. The waiting lists are long, the field is growing fast, and in therapy offices across the country, adults in their 30s and 40s are sitting down and tracing their financial behaviors not to bad choices or lack of discipline, but back to specific rooms, specific voices, specific nights when they lay in bed listening to their parents fight over something that cost less than a dinner out. Memory is long. The body keeps the score. But the score can change. Those children are now your neighbors. Some of them are drowning quietly in debt they can't explain. Some of them are hoarding money compulsively and still feeling poor. Some of them become their parents, passing the same charged silence to their own kids around dinner tables, in different houses in different decades. And some of them, the ones who found a single calm hand to show them another way, broke the chain entirely. The difference was not intelligence. It was not income. It was one person who made money look survivable.